All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. 49ers lose to the Bengals 31-17. The 49ers have made it to the end of the round. This is the boxing match that I've been talking about. And they've made it staggering into the end of the round. They're up against the ropes. They're getting the crap beaten out of them. 5-0 start. They landed a ton of punches to open the first round of the season. And then they've taken 3 straight on the chin entering this bye week. So, if you're a competitor, part of you wants to get right back out there and fix the issue. But the realistic part of anybody's brain speaking right now would be, okay, the 49ers need to take a step away because the 49ers have not been able to put the whole formula together here since that 42-10 win over the Cowboys. And today was a ghastly performance, especially by the 49ers defense. Jaw-droppingly bad 2 weeks for the 49ers defense. Listen to this. Kirk Cousins, who unfortunately tore his Achilles today, it sounds like, for Minnesota against Green Bay. But Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow over the past 2 games have combined to go, I think, 66 of 76 or 65 of 75 for 661 yards on 8.6 yards per attempt. That is the worst 2-game stretch of defense for the 49ers ever since Kyle Shanahan took over as head coach. And they have a whole lot more talent now than in some of those early years, 2017 and 2018, with Kyle Shanahan being the head coach. Obviously, some blame goes to the offensive side as well. Brock Purdy, probably the worst 2-throw stretch of his career. Interceptions to both of the top 2 Bengals linebackers, Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson. One of them happened in the red zone. So it gave the 49ers, took away a 49ers chance to tie this football game. The special teams also didn't play well. I mean, it was bad all around for the 49ers. But here's the overarching point. It's time for disappointment on the 49ers end, and it's time for work from the 49ers. It's not time for histrionics. And I get it. There are probably going to be a lot of histrionics. And histrionics mean just essentially complaints so loud and so irrational that they're just cries for attention. There's a lot of histrionics in the NFL, even when a team is winning, right? And now when a team is losing, the 49ers are going to hear it. But at the end of the day, the perspective is the perspective, and it is that this team is 5-3. They're now in second place in the NFC West. They're still firmly contenders because they have the talent to be contenders, but they have several major glaring issues that they have to fix. The 1981 and 1988 49ers were here at Levi Stadium today. A lot of those players from those teams were here. I think over 120 of those players. The 81 and 88 teams beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl. The 88 team went through ups and downs during the regular season. In fact, the 1988 team fell to 5-3 this week after losing to the Chicago Bears 10-9. The very next week, Steve Young had his famous 49-yard run, gets away again against the Vikings, and then Joe Montana came back, and the 49ers ultimately strung together a lot of wins and then won the Super Bowl. This team can, I think, follow a similar formula because that 88 team, they opened up the season 4-1. This team opened up 5-0, ran into tough times. The 88 team dropped to 6-5 ultimately before really starting to course correct. These NFL seasons, I mean, you have to really realize that every single game is a season in and of itself. It's the best players, the best schemes, the best coaching in the world that you're facing every single week, right? So even the bad teams have a chance to beat you. And the 49ers have now lapsed for various reasons in 3 straight weeks. What's most concerning from this game against the Bengals is that the 49ers had major lapses in all 3 phases of the game, but it also makes the most sense because they were coming off of a short week, right? They played Monday night against the Minnesota Vikings. They had a flyback cross country, and the Bengals were very rested. So I said the 49ers looked haggard today, especially defensively. Look really worn out. Well, now they're going to be coming off the bye week. They have to travel, though. They're going to have to travel to Jacksonville, and they're going to have to try to turn things around. They're going to have to try to fix things kind of like they fixed them in 2021 and 2022. The main The main lost ground from this defeat is the number 1 seed race. And the 49ers, they had tried so hard and they'd put such an emphasis on starting this season out fast so they wouldn't end up where they did in 2021 and 2022. And that is on the outside looking in of the NFC's number 1 seed or a first round bye or even a home game in 2021, despite finishing the season strong, right? 2021, the 49ers started the season 3-5. 2022, 3-4. Both times they picked themselves out of the hole, but both to make the playoffs, but neither of those two times saw the 49ers actually qualify for the 1 seed. And that ended up costing them in the long run in the playoffs in 2021 and 2022. All is not lost yet here in 2023 because they started 5-0, but they just gave up a lot of that advantage by losing the past 3 games. 6-2 entering the bye would have been very, very manageable, a game behind the Eagles, right? But the whole 5-3 part, the 3 straight losses, that really puts them in a bit of a hole. But the goal and the process moving forward for the 49ers has to remain the same. And it can't be one of histrionics. It can't be one of throwing your arms up in the air and acting like, the sky is falling and acting like they're 0-8 at this point. They're not 0-8. They're not 1-7. They're 5-3. They're still above the NFL average. They still have, I think, the best roster in all of football, but they have a lot of major issues to correct. So what men do in tough times is men keep on chopping wood. Christian McCaffrey actually used this quote. An NFL season, you go through so many ups and downs. It's a marathon, right? I said the 49ers won the sprint when they went 5-0. Then I said they had to win the marathon. Well, they're not winning the marathon right now. Well, but to win the marathon, you have to maintain a steady pace and continue working, and you have to fight through the pain. Right now, there's a lot of pain because the 49ers have lost 3 in a row. But you're going to get your boost. You have your little rest stop right now in the middle of the marathon, the bye week. But you have to find a way to keep on grinding, keep on chopping wood, and hoping that the puzzle pieces fall into place. So speaking of those puzzle pieces, a jaw-droppingly bad 2 weeks for the 49ers defense. Joe Burrow, 28 of 32 for 283 yards, 134.8 rating, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Also rushed for 43 yards. I mean, Joe Burrow was awesome, but the 49ers defense certainly helped him be awesome. I've never seen so many open receivers over a 2-game stretch, and I've covered this team since Kyle Shanahan came aboard in 2017. So, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Steve Wilks right now. Kyle Shanahan today was asked if he had confidence in what Steve Wilks was doing, and he kind of dodged the question. He just said he didn't have confidence in anything that the 49ers were doing. He expanded the focus of the blame to the offense, to the special teams, which is fair because all 3 phases of the game had a part in this. But if you just look at this from the simplest perspective, the 49ers had the top defense in the league in 2022. They had one of the best defenses in the league down the stretch run of 2021. They had one of the top 2 defenses in 2019, and they had way too many injuries to expect anything in 2020. So basically, they've been a top shelf defensive program for 4 years entering this year. And then for the first 5 games of this season, it looked pretty damn good too. Over the past 2 games, they've given up those 661 passing yards on 8.6 per attempt. It's a level of scorched earth that we have not seen over a 2-game stretch. We saw a 1-game stretch against Kansas City last year, right? But we haven't seen this over a 2-game stretch for the 49ers. The Atlanta and Kansas City games last year, Atlanta ran the ball. I know Marcus Mariota went 13 of 14, but he only passed for 100-something yards. Over the past 2 weeks, the 49ers have just gotten absolutely torched through the air by Cousins and now by Joe Burrow. And that reflects really poorly on a unit that's healthy. They had injuries last year, right? At least for that Atlanta game last season. And it reflects really poorly on a unit that's healthy and was top 2 with similar personnel, right? They might have lost Sansa Mebucom. They might have lost Charles Omenihu. They didn't lose enough to go from top of the league to the product that we've seen on the field over the past 2 weeks. On the other side of the ball, I think Brock Purdy was very explosive, and because of this defensive ineptitude, and mind you, the 49ers also gave up 134 yards rushing. They're a bottom 3, bottom 4 run defense after finishing in the top 2 the past 2 years. So I think Brock Purdy was really explosive. He was sharp in the first half. He was a big part of the reason that the 49ers were in it, but he also made 2 very critical errors on back-to-back throws that straddled the third and the fourth quarters. First to Jermaine Pratt. It was an option play. Purdy should have handed off. Instead, he started scrambling. 49ers picked up an illegal man downfield penalty that was Purdy's fault on the play. And then, even despite that, he tried to force the football downfield. You got to give Pratt a lot of credit. That's a really tough play to make as a linebacker when you're essentially pass rushing, pursuing the quarterback, to have the wherewithal at that kind of short range to pull up, tip the ball to yourself and catch it. So great interception, but a really bad decision from Brock Purdy. Then he thought that the linebacker, Logan Wilson, other linebacker on the very next possession, had cleared in his zone coverage, but he hadn't, and it was a terrible, awful interception for Brock Purdy on consecutive plays. That being said, Purdy tried to bring the 49ers back in this game. He looked like prime Russell Wilson on that drive where he's thrown back across his body, making something out of nothing. Obviously, no Trent Williams, no run game for the 49ers. They only had 56 rushing yards from players not named Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was technically the 49ers' leading rusher, 6 carries, 57 yards. McCaffrey, 12 for 54. Mitchell, 2 yards on the ground. So they didn't have a run game. They're fighting from behind. Purdy is pulling rabbits out of his hat. He brings the 49ers to within one score. But then again, the jaw-droppingly bad 2 weeks in the 49ers defense rear their ugly head. So, two things can be true at once. Purdy can be explosive. He can be the reason the 49ers are in it. And he also could be the culprit here behind 2 critical offensive errors that helped defeat the 49ers. It's a team sport. He had his contribution to the loss. He also did some good stuff. The defense did a little bit of good, but it was a whole lot of bad. I mean, a couple sacks from Eric Armstead, a half a sack from Nick Bosa. They got the turnover when Cleveland Farrell had that strip on Irv Smith, and Isaiah Oliver fell on it. I thought Oliver played a decent game, especially in run support. But boy, the defense was mostly bad in this game. And that leads me to say this. The complementary football lens is the only credible lens throughout which to view this game. People are going to freak out. They're going to try to put all of the blame on the quarterback. They're going to be talking a lot about how bad the defense was, and I'm going to be doing a lot of that too, right? Talking about how bad the defense was. But the only way to properly analyze this and get to the bottom of what the 49ers need to do to turn this around, just like they have turned it around over the past 2 years, is to look at this as a team sport and realize that offense fuels defense, defense fuels offense, and special teams is the glue that can kind of hold everything together. Because the 49ers can look a whole lot better in Jacksonville in 2 weeks if they start playing like a team again, if the complementary football, if the different phases of the game help each other out. And I'll give you an example. Game starts, 49ers get the ball. First play, 8.5-yard run from Christian McCaffrey off the right side. Everything looking good, right, against the number 27 Bengals run defense. But then second down, Bengals blow up a McCaffrey run, sets up 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1, 49ers don't want to go to the quarterback sneak for obvious reasons, so they go to Kyle Juszczyk. DJ Reader, the big 340-pound defensive tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals, completely blows up Jake Brendel, the 49ers center, pushes him into the backfield. Because of that, Cam Taylor-Britt, the corner, comes roaring off the edge on the run blitz. Juszczyk is stuffed. The 49ers go from an 8.5-yard gain on the first play of the game to 3 and out, just like that. So they punt the ball away. That is a terrible way to set the tone for your defense, right? Your defense, even though you get the ball first, your defense essentially has to be on the field first. And even though you had an 8.5-yard gain, you lost that tempo control of the line of scrimmage. I mean, just as far as setting an example for the rest of the game, and we know that football is a game of examples, right? If you set a tone physically, usually what happens later on is going to follow some sort of suit. Well, it happened today. The Bengals set the tone on that first 3rd down, and then they dominate the line of scrimmage on that side of the football for the rest of the football game. The complementary formula, though, hurts the 49ers defense, who has to immediately take the field. It looks like they're up for the challenge, though. Remember that first Bengals drive? The second series of that first drive, they pick up a quick first down, but then the 49ers defense digs in. They run play action to Drew Sample, the tight end, who is afraid of getting his head taken off by Dre Greenlaw, so he drops the pass. 2nd and 10. 2nd and 10 is a throw to the right side of Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is running a little slant pattern against Charvarius Ward over on that side of the field. The 49ers have the coverage shaded toward Jamar Chase. It is ready. Isaiah Oliver, the nickelback, is ready to prey on the throw. He steps in front of the slant. helps out the inside leverage they had given to Jamar Chase, and he drops an interception. Isaiah Oliver should have picked off that pass on second down, but it is incomplete. So Burrow at this point, 2 incompletions. It is 3rd down and 10. The 49ers unleash, back in olden times, maybe just a few weeks ago, but especially in 2019, in 2021, in 2022, that's exactly where this 49ers defense had thrived, right? They had thrived off of roaring off the edge, pushing the middle. Pass rush gets going on 3rd and 10. They obviously didn't thrive against Minnesota in that regard because their coverage combinations were off, but their coverage combinations were perfect on this first 3rd and 10. Absolutely perfect. But Burrow, met by Eric Armstead. Eric Armstead jumps on his back, somehow gets away from Eric Armstead. Then Nick Bosa has a shot on him, somehow gets away from Nick Bosa. I mean, how do you not bring him down? One of those two guys. I didn't get it. I mean, obviously that showed us that Joe Burrow was healthy again because he had been dealing with the calf injury before then. But neither of those first two players are able to bring Joe Burrow down. He sprints out, finds T. Higgins for the first down. From that point onward, the 49ers defense was absolutely burnt toast, scorched earth, whatever you want to call it. Burrow, 28 of 32, those 283 yards. He completed 19 passes in a row at one point. It was, I mean, if we look at the drive chart in this game for Cincinnati's offense in that first half, it was touchdown on that possession, touchdown on the next possession, missed field goal on the 3rd possession, and then a fumble on their 4th possession. But even that fumble drive, that was a 71-yard drive on just 9 plays. So the 49ers defense was not offering any resistance here outside of a couple plays. Farrell forced the fumble. That kept the 49ers somewhat in this football game. But, folks, this type of defensive performance is not going to win games. When you give up 661 passing yards and 8.6 per attempt over a 2-week stretch, that type of defensive performance is not going to win many games, regardless of what kind of performance you get from your own quarterback. And we could talk about the 49ers offense and their own quarterback right now. Brock Purdy was explosive. He really was. And you know what? The way that he's running right now, nobody can say that Brock Purdy is credibly say that Brock Purdy is a physically limited quarterback at this point. The guy flat out can run. He's got wheels. He was the 49ers leading rusher today. That's not a good thing, but he was. What do we got? 6 carries, 57 yards, 9.5 per carry. Outrushed Joe Burrow, was 6 for 43. It's funny, but Burrow was running too. I mean, there was a play, just really back to the 49ers defense getting worked. There was a play in the first half. It was a 3rd and long. It's like, okay, can the 49ers defense finally get off the field here? How's this going to look? And they weren't ready for a quarterback draw. I mean, that's a failure schematically on Steve Wilkes' part. He doesn't have the right coverage combinations drawn up a lot of the time, but he's not ready for the quarterback draw schematically in midfield. That's perfect, ripe for the pickings draw territory. So Burrow ran 10 plus yards, picked up the first down. Brock Purdy's runs were not designed runs. Brock Purdy was running for his life a bit, doing a great job in the open field, especially in the first half, picking up the yardage that was there. 16-yard run was his long. He was delivering outside the numbers. He was delivering over the middle of the field. He was accurate. He was explosive. Remember when the 49ers were backed up on their own goal line with, a minute left in the first half? And Kyle Shanahan, in a play that was a vote of confidence in Brock Purdy and a vote of no confidence in his own defense, decided to let one rip over the middle of the field. And George Kittle caught it. And Kittle had a massive game, 9 catches, 149 yards. He was explosive in this game. But the 49ers obviously didn't have enough time because they burned too many timeouts earlier in the half, and then they ran out of clock there at the end of the first half. Still, it showed the explosiveness that Brock Purdy was bringing to the table, which is great, which is going to serve the 49ers well down the stretch. This team doesn't have a quarterback issue, and it's one of those things where he made 2 critical errors, but he also did this, right? He's explosive, and then he makes the errors. The issue is not from a larger, oh my God, this guy can't play quarterback standpoint. The issue is from a team standpoint. You got to support him with better defense. You got to support him with a better run game. It reminded me a lot of the 49ers when they played the Arizona Cardinals in 2021, week 9, the game that Drake Kirkpatrick got run over by Benjamin. Jimmy Garoppolo played a solid game. I don't think he didn't throw a pick in that game. The 49ers had 2 fumbles, so none of it actually turnover-wise was on Jimmy Garoppolo, but he still took a ton of blame despite throwing for 350 in that game, right? The defense didn't hold up its end of the complimentary bargain in week 9 against Arizona. The defense did not hold up its end of the complimentary bargain here in week 8 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Did Brock Purdy play a perfect game? No. He made 2 critical errors, but you have to give your quarterback a fair platform for success. And I'll tell you that outside of the QB, 17 rushes for 56 yards. That's not it. That's not the winning formula. Now, the 49ers are going to get Trent Williams back at some point, hopefully after the bye. That's what they hope. They're going to get Deebo Samuel back. There's a reason why these 2 guys lead the 49ers out of the locker room ahead of these games with the boombox, because they're the heart and soul of this team's physical mentality. Trent Williams is a dominating offensive lineman. Deebo Samuel is obviously an excellent adaptable weapon, but he adds a little physical spice to the game, makes it a lot easier for this team to run the football. So that's going to be, I think, one of the keys backbone-wise for this team to turn it around, because they need a run game for not just for Brock Purdy and the passing offense, because that's how Kyle Shanahan's offense operates, but from a game control standpoint for this defense, because this defense needs a boost. We can criticize the defense all night long. And they deserve it because they've been terrible the last 2 weeks. But the reality of the situation is they need to be propped up right now. They need a bit of a boost. And the 49ers, to prop that defense up back in 2021 when they were coming off of that Arizona game, they played the Rams the next week. They just fed Deebo Samuel. It was Deebo just pounding. And that gave the defense time to make its course correction and turn it around. So it's a team sport. The 49ers need to now give their defense a boost, whether you think the defense deserves a boost or not. The reality is they need one. They're going to need to build that running backbone, pound opponents into submission. They're going to hope to get Deebo Samuel back for that Jacksonville game coming off of this bye week. So that's why I say that the complementary football lens is the only path of credible analysis, because you have to look at this in terms of offense and defense for the 49ers, and then special teams sprinkled in there. That means that I'm going to have to get out of here. Look at this. It's dark. Maybe if I wave a little bit, the lights will come on, but I doubt it. Anyway, the 49ers have been in this position before, or have they? They've been at, 3-5, 3-4, but they've never been at 5-0 and then going to 5-3. So it feels foreign, but it's important to still continue to maintain that perspective. Jacksonville coming out of the bye. Maybe they have a fully stocked team with Trent and Deebo Samuel back. Then it's back here to Levi's for Tampa Bay. And then it's off to Seattle on a short week, Thanksgiving. That's the Philly sandwich, right? Seattle, Philly, Seattle. So it gets real. They're still very much in it, but they've got to fix their problems, and maybe a little bit of time off is what the 49ers need. In this darkness, which is a very nice metaphor for what the 49ers are dealing with right now, we have to remember that now the 49ers have made it to the end of the round. They opened with 5 landed punches. They took 3 on the chin to end of the first round. The bell is rung. They're in their corner. They're all cut up. They're in this dramatic lighting that I'm in right now, and they got to figure out a way to regroup. They did it last year. They did it the year before. Let's see if they can do it this year with a lot of talent. But it's a very similar challenge, and I'll tell you what, it's a time for disappointment and work to move past the challenge. It's not time for histrionics. By the way, trade deadline is next. We'll see if the 49ers do something before Tuesday's 1 p.m. deadline to give them a little bit of a boost. But as far as the big picture goes, it's a team sport. They got to make the tweaks necessary to play complementary football. Those are the key words. Everybody like and subscribe. We'll talk to you very soon. I'm leaving the darkness now.